In this tutorial, we're going to learn how to use the widgets to define the handwriting interpretation for our document. In the first area, we have three widgets that are associated with a text field: single line, multi-line, generally used for common areas, and we can also add boxes to our field. These are similar to combs on a document. So if our document had those combs, we can actually mirror the interpretation of those particular fields within the comb using digital writing. So to start, all I need to do is select the widget that I want to use, single line text, and click in the area. Now, what we have here is what we call a structured form. When all the fields are encased within a box, it makes it very easy for us to use that same widget in multiple locations just by simply clicking. The next thing I want to do is define my widget or define that field. So I'm going to go to the right side of the page, and under widget type, we see we have a single text field, and we can name it. Now, you can name this field in multiple ways. You can name it based on the form's field name. You can also use the database name, where the data is actually going to be integrated with. So for here, we're just going to use the form name, first name. Now, I do have options. I can make this field mandatory, and I can also capture GPS information at that time. The next bar down, position, is already pre-populated once I select my area. It's a good idea to make sure your widgets are locked. Under handwriting interpretation, when we set up the form, we were using the English US dictionary or language. Now, I can apply the various dictionaries or lexicons to that field. So if I look down the list, I do have a first name dictionary or lexicon. So I'm going to use that. The last bar down, viewer, I have some options here for the viewer. And again, we're going to go over the viewer in another tutorial, but this is the central place where all the documents are submitted, and a user or administrator can see everything submitted by all the users. Here we have the ability to allow the user to edit this information. So for example, if my handwriting interpretation engine did not catch it 100%, we have the ability in the viewer to edit that field and make it correct. I can also just give them viewing rights or hide it. And an example of hiding a field, if we're using personal information that we want to keep out of the view of the rest of the users in our office, so we can hide those values. Today we're just going to leave it on edit. And you can also name that field again here. So once I have my field defined, I can go to the next one. Same thing, name it, and which lexicon or dictionary. I have a last name. And we could do that throughout all of the fields that we're using on the form. The next widget down is my date picker. Now, when I use the date picker and go to this field, a few things have changed. Under handwriting interpretation, you see we do not have those lexicons or dictionaries. Because we're utilizing the date picker from the tablet, it's automatically going to be populated with the correct date. All we need to do is name it. The same thing would go through or be used on our time picker. Next, my options list widget. When I select that, I go over to my technicians, my employees, highlight that area. Now I want to go to my text editor where I have the names of my employees all set for me. Copy. And in tablet appearance, I want to paste those values. Now my options list is pre-populated with all my employees. Our next widget, checkboxes, can be used for checkboxes and also radio buttons. I move to the area of the form where I want to use it, and I select the areas just by clicking within the design element. Now there's a couple of things different about a checkbox and radio button that we need to pay attention to. You'll see now under checkboxes we have two values. The name of the field, warranty, and also the value that we want to use if selected. Now, I make it a habit of either using the field name or the name of the field in my associated database. So for here today, we're going to use warranty. And I also have the ability to make that mandatory. So we want to make sure we do the same thing in all the fields for our checkboxes. And this one I'm just going to call T and M, time and materials. Now, we can also make this a group where only one value can be selected. Under groups, first thing I would do is select all the fields that I want to apply to group 2. So using my mouse and holding the shift key, I can select all 3. As you see, they're highlighted in red. Now I can give my group a name. And when I click this add button, click to add the group. Now the group has been added. What this allows me to do is only allow for one of these values to be selected. And we could do the same thing for our radio buttons. And again, having 2 names and also applying a group. Our next widget is a drawing area widget. So I'm going to select the drawing area, and if I go to my form and I click in an area, as you see, I want to actually use the widget for this whole area, but it only selected that one little box, again, because it's a structured area. So while my mouse is on it, let me delete it. In this particular case, we want to drag and drop the drawing area widget. Now we can reposition it according to the size we want to use as our drawing area. And as you see over on the left hand side under widget type, you get to name your drawing area. We can make it mandatory and capture GPS information. But again, in drawing areas, we do not do any handwriting interpretation. Our last widget is our signature. And on the bottom portion of our form, you see we have an area for signing. But this is also unstructured. So I want to select my signature widget, drag and drop it, and position it to where I want to capture my signature. Now, it's a good habit always to make a signature mandatory. This way, signatures and initials are automatically captured, meaning that you can process everything once you receive it. Skipping ahead, now that I have all the fields on my form defined the way I want, there's a couple of things I want to draw your attention to. One, you'll notice that different widgets have different colors. The pinkish color refers to my text fields. The plum or purplish color refers to my date, time, and options list. My checkboxes and radio button have a grayish area color. Drawing area is green. And my signature area is orange. This gives you a visual reference, making sure you're using the right tool in the right field. Now that everything is set, I want to save my form. I click File and Save. You'll get a message that says, for security reasons, we want to make sure that you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing, and so you won't lose any information. Say OK. It brings you to the area where you want to save the document. And if you save it, if there's a current version, you can also rename it to give it a version name, or just replace it. That's it. Now the document is ready to be uploaded to the server for immediate use.